as a New Yorker, I feel like a lot of your most, and I mean, people talk about like crying on the train or like seeing people you know on the train or whatever. Like a lot of life's most tender and personal moments happen in liminal spaces in general, but specifically on the subway as a New Yorker. So that's what it feels like to me. It feels like this transition space that actually isn't a transition is like its own life that happens there in itself.
Especially the way you get.
I'm Aisha Williams. You can call me Aisha for short. Work in the advertising industry as a creative strategist, and I'm from Brooklyn, New York. But right now, I work as a creative strategist, which is basically being directly involved in like the research and planning that goes into a campaign. I think something that works in the public interest is serving the public peace. I feel like the peace and well-being of all people is an objective thing. So we may have different ideas about like the best pathways to creating a healthy economy, or what we should be doing politically or with the climate or with anything. But when it comes to like just the health and well-being and peace of the majority, I feel like meeting people's basic human needs and rights, and making sure that people are well fed, well clothed, and are comfortable in their living experience is the public good. So anything that serves that, and I think it's a lot of the time we pretend there's more of a gray area than there really is around that.
And how do you think that sense of peace relates to advertising in society?
I think it's interesting because advertising, the goal is not your peace. Like the goal is your excitement as a consumer. And excitement that motivates you to make a decision. And usually when you're at peace, you're not motivated by or toward desire. So it's like if you're manufacturing desire in an audience, you usually want to make them feel like they're not comfortable. But you don't want them to feel like you're disrupting their peace, but you have to, which is interesting. So it's kind of a stealth thing because they should feel at peace, but they're like anxious about how their body looks or how their clothes sit on them, or not having the newest gadget or whatever it is. Like they just will not be fully comfortable until they have this thing, but that message has to be delivered in a way that doesn't make them feel like they're being disrupted. That makes me think about recently, everybody's on Substack lately. Charlie XCX is like apparently on Substack, and she wrote an essay about the realities of being a pop star, and something she said was like, as a pop star, a lot of your life is lived in liminal spaces. And I thought that was really interesting because I'm like, I feel like the same could be said as a New Yorker. I mean, anyone that lives in a major city probably. New Yorker, I feel like a lot of your most, and I mean, people talk about like crying on the train or like seeing people you know on the train or whatever. Like a lot of life's most tender and personal moments happen in liminal spaces in general, but specifically on the subway as a New Yorker. So that's what it feels like to me. It feels like this transition space that actually isn't a transition is like its own life that happens there in itself. And so the subway ads are then like different from ads, like different from billboards outdoors, or different from ads on your phone. They're like the advertisements that disrupt your daydreams. Like even when you're not on your phone, when you're just gazing into space, when you're trying not to make eye contact with another person, like those are the things that you see regardless of if you're trying to see anything else. So.
Which subway campaigns can you recall most recently seeing, and were any of them boring, shocking, or well-crafted? Anything that caught your attention?
I look at them a lot. Like I notice them a lot when I'm in the subway, but then I forget them after. I pay attention since childhood, like all the poems, like the public, like subway MTA, like poetry ads, I read those. The Hinge and all the dating app, like Bumble ones are very popular. I just have seen people I know personally, like modeling in those. The CUNY ads as well, I've seen people I know in those, or just like notice those a lot. And then of course the Friend ads. I think anything AI related in the subway and outside of it, I forget what it's called, but that brand that has the ring, and it's like, but it's I don't know if it's AI related, but it's like tracking your health or
An Aura ring?
Yeah, that. I forget the tagline.
Oh, I actually don't know if that's AI or not.
I don't know either. It's like spiritually
AI.
But their tagline was kind of creepy in a similar sense to the Friend ones too. Just like very invasive, extreme minimalism, but then also just like what they're saying in that too. So yeah.
The subway is such an offline place. And it feels like a lot of the advertisements are trying to bring in the internet and social media and connectivity to an underground offline space.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like the friend ads were a perfect example of it. Feels like everything is becoming the cyberspace.
Yes, which is so true, and I feel like it reflects like the changes that have happened aesthetically even in the cyberspace are reflected in those kinds of ads too. Like I feel like the internet used to be more colorful and maximalist and interactive, and now everything is just like clear and large and, you know, creepy in a way. The offlineness of the subway I feel like is really important because, yeah, like coming back to that point about disrupting your daydreams with those ads, I feel like that's the thing. Like you're not on your phone a lot of the time because you can't be, at least if you're in an underground station. So the ads are usually formulated for your eyes to travel. I know the Hinge ads do that a lot, but a lot of others that I can't think of right now. But usually they'll be structured in a way where you have to look at each panel of the ad, and it's kind of a narrative that continues or builds upon itself. A lot of different ways to do that, and I think like the point of that was to kind of recreate the same interactivity of like being on your phone or reading a book while you're on the train. But now things like Friend or just other types of ads are like focused in on this thing, like, you know, like this intense kind of thing that you definitely wouldn't want to look at and probably would fit better on like a large outdoor billboard than like something that's in such an intimate space. But it's clear that those advertisers don't see the subway as an intimate space in the same way that your average New Yorker does. So.
How do you think your experience as a native New Yorker influences how you perceive subway ads, and have you noticed a change in content over your lifetime?
I have noticed a change with content in subway ads since childhood. I don't know if I can necessarily put a finger on exactly what it is. I feel like there's the obvious things, like, you know, that joke about how like there's sentences being said that have never been said before. Like I think there's just new things to advertise that you never would have thought would be on the market. And so, you know, this AI that can be your friend, or this ring that can like track your health or whatever, are now like part of the fabric of how we live life. But also in the way that people are being advertised too. These are much more now about who you are and your identity, like, you know, that kind of identity marketing, rather than like buy this thing. It's like, you know, we want you to like sell this thing, you know, it's really good for its use. There's this product that works, and obviously luxury has always been a thing, and we've known that a luxury good is something that you don't necessarily need. Now it's like luxury is not a separate category of thing. Everything is advertised in the way that luxury is. So there's a lot of things that we don't need that we're being told that we should have, and also being told that we're the type of person who should have. Like, you're the type of person who should live in this kind of apartment in New York City, and you should search for that kind of apartment in this kind of way. So here's this website. Or you should date this kind of person. Or, you know what I mean? Like, I think we're in a culture that's so heavily dominated by like influencers, and everybody and everything is a brand or wants to brand themselves. So I think brands are, you know, starting to play into that, and advertising is more about how something fits into your brand as a consumer. Like, maybe, I don't know if that would have been my perspective without that, like, you know, insight into the behind the scenes, but yeah, that's what it feels to me now. I try not to be nihilistic, but I do think that if anything, we have and are going to continue to have, like, we the people, have less of a say in anything. If we didn't want a thing to exist, if we thought it was a bad idea, that would kind of determine its success in the market or its place or whatever, and determine how it's advertised and to whom. Very obvious that there are more people involved in like the funding behind what is on the market and what is successful and what we are forced to see. Like, there are people who I feel like consumers are starting to become more aware of that. Like, there are people determining that aren't us. So we can scream from the mountaintops as much as we want about how much we don't like a thing or a product or whatever, but it's like that won't stop it from coming into existence. What I hope changes about advertising is that we can, knowing that, just become more relentless as consumers, or as those deemed as consumers, and find ways to make our feedback impactful. I'm not even gonna name names, but I've seen brands that you wouldn't think we would have a voice in, like, experience boycotts over the past year that have really fucked them up. Like, despite what I just said, not underestimating our power is going to be important, because to the point about like Facetune and stuff, yeah, like I don't remember seeing, you know, like Facetune ads and things for body modification. Like there's a lot of like I said, when it comes to the identity thing, like what you look like, which of course advertising has always been about, but it's more like fundamentally change what you look like from the inside out, both, you know. Thank you for like, yeah, doing this. I think this is cool that people are talking about this. And another thing, which is maybe part of the last thing, but I think it's just gonna be harder. Everyone's talking about how the future is gonna be like harder to discern truths from fiction, but for sure it's already very difficult for people to realize when they're being advertised to. That's always been the trick of marketing, but now more than ever, I think it's important to be conscious of not only when you're being advertised to, but also when you're advertising, you know, like involuntarily or without even realizing it, like even as innocently as posting on Instagram and the way that you approach that. Yeah.